welcome to Destination I Do's podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Stein. And this episode, we are getting real with a real destination bride who did not one, but 3 different celebrations for her wedding away. We are joined by Danielle, and she took 180 guests to Cancun, Mexico to witness the union of her sweetheart, Danielle Ayanru, and he's Nigerian, and Danielle, you are Jamaican, and they celebrated not one time, but 3 times with 2 different ceremonies and receptions. And I'm so excited to have you on the show and talk about this. This is like amazing. I can't believe you brought that many people to Mexico and that you did 3 different celebrations. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. So what made you and your husband decide on a destination wedding? And then specifically, why Cancun?
Yeah, so we knew that we wanted to do a destination wedding from the jump because I have always been a traveler. Traveling has been my therapy, also like rewards for doing something right. Like I just go away on a trip. So, and then because my husband spent a lot of time with me, he then became a traveling person. And so the fact that, we had 180 guests in Cancun, so you could only imagine the amount of people we would have at our wedding in New York. It would be insane.
Oh, yeah. That's actually so we always say the destination wedding is like the bouncer for your guest list. Like a bouncer at a club, they're like, yes, you're accepted. No, you're not. So that's kind of why a destination wedding made sense for you then. Because 180 people, that's a large destination wedding for sure.
Oh yeah, there's no way we could have had a lot of people in New York without starting our marriage in debt.
Well, exactly. And New York's an expensive place to get married. It's like one of the top states as far as expense. So that was smart.
Everything, like grocery, everything is expensive. So weddings is just not a thing. We weren't going to do that. So specifically Cancun, because I have been there already. I went a lot during college because it was very affordable. And I just knew from my vibe there that, they go out of their way for tourists. They're very safe in Cancun as well. There's a lot of things to do. So I knew even if we didn't pick a resort that had a lot of things to do, which we did, there would be things for them to leave the resort and do and feel safe and do all of the things. So yeah, that's why specifically Cancun was chosen.
Well, that's one of my favorite destinations. I love Mexico in general. Like I go there all the time. And Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Tulum, like that whole general region is just gorgeous. I mean, and to your point, the tourists are just welcomed with open arms. I mean, every time I go, the hospitality and the service is just second to none, honestly. And the food, oh God, I love Mexican food. So it's like my favorite cuisine. So I'm like, all the guacamole, please.
Every day, all day. We actually, one of our first dates was actually making each other tacos. So yeah.
Oh, that's so cute. I love it. Okay. So having a large group, was everybody excited to go to Mexico? And if not, like, how did you handle that?
So no, a majority were very excited to go to Mexico. But you're always going to have those people that give you pushback when you're planning a destination wedding, right? So when I was kind of approached with the negativity, I think what made it easier for me was the support of my husband. One, we were together on the same page and we decided this is what we're going to do regardless of what people think, And then when they came to me with like, well, why don't we go to Jamaica? Because, my family's Jamaican. And Jamaicans will always think of an excuse to go to Jamaica all the time.
I don't blame them. Jamaica's pretty special too.
So many of my family members have been married in Jamaica. So I was like, not another wedding in Jamaica. So yeah, when they came to me with that, I honestly just showed them the resort that I had in mind, and I think once they started seeing, Auntie, there's a whole water park in this resort, there's 8 different restaurants. If you don't like the first one, you can go to the other 8, and I would show them just how amazing the actual resort was. And from watching the videos and showing them the pictures and explaining the whole concept of all inclusive, it won them over eventually. And the ones that didn't get won over, it's like, don't come.
Yeah. And did the ones that didn't get one over, did they come and then like complain the whole time, or?
No, they had a great time. They had a great time. And I think that's just with, anything unknown, people are going to just like, no, because majority of them that gave the pushback haven't been to Mexico, right?
Yeah.
So the unknown is scary,
Well,
so
and I get kind of frustrated too, because I feel like American media has been really irresponsible on reporting on Mexico. And it's frustrating for me because having gone there so many times, I have tons of friends who live in Mexico. I've never had an issue ever traveling there by myself or with other people, never. And so I get frustrated because it's like, I think people hear what the American media says about dangers in Mexico. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, we have more dangers here. It's like, you could get shot just walking down the street here. I mean, it's no more dangerous than anywhere else. So I get frustrated by that. And I feel you on the family members pushing back, because we had something similar when we were doing our destination wedding. I actually had a family member say to me, like, that's really selfish of you. And the funny thing is, she was the one, it was actually my aunt. And she was one of the people at the end of it. And she was like, get it now. It wasn't selfish at all. And I really, like, she had the best time and actually went back to the destination we had chosen, like, separately. So I feel you. And I'm glad that individual or those individuals were like, they embraced it and got it in the end, because that's good.
he did. Thank God.
Good. Okay. So you're from Jamaica, your husband is Nigerian. You did two separate actual like ceremony and reception for each of those traditions and cultures.
Yeah.
So what did you do as far as like just bringing both of those together? And then also like what were the things that you're like, we have to have this food, or we have to have this tradition or this custom? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we had a Nigerian wedding on the Saturday, and then we had the typical white wedding on the Sunday. They call it white wedding because that's like the normal wedding. And it's English. So essentially what we did was, as far as Jamaican culture, and apologies to my Jamaicans, but I've been to several different Jamaican weddings, and unlike Nigerian culture, it's not a scripted format when it comes to weddings. Like, we were colonized by the English, so their weddings are English weddings. They're the typical dance with the father, bouquet toss. The only thing about Jamaican weddings that has to happen is the Jamaican black cake, which is like the rum cake.
Okay.
Everybody, that's the only thing that my mom was like, you need to have this. Everything else, my parents were very like, there's no written Jamaican things that happen at weddings. However, in Nigerian culture, there's a whole thing, there's
yes,
procedures that need to happen. There's people that need to be there. There's gifts that need to be given. We had to pack gifts for every single one of our 180 guests and bring them from New York because it was a part of the tradition. Yeah, it was like, we usually give like one favor, but in Nigerian culture, it's like a bag full of things that you usually give someone to just show your appreciation and just to show like how important the occasion is, essentially. So yeah, for Nigerian culture, we definitely sat down with all of the aunties and the uncles and wrote everything down. And then for the Jamaican culture, it was a lot more flexible. We were able to kind of sneak in creatively Jamaican ceremony. So we had like Bob Marley playing when I walked down the aisle in the Nigerian wedding. We had the Jamaican black cake. We also had jerk pork. We had jerk chicken. We had like Jamaican food. And the DJ was actually my cousin, who played a lot of Jamaican music throughout. So any way that we could kind of sneak in creatively Jamaican culture, we did. And then the Nigerian culture was more kind of in sync. So like a whole script and the different representatives from each family and all that stuff. So yeah, it was definitely interesting planning. But it all came together very beautifully.
Now, did his family kind of help bring in those traditions? Like, did they work with you to say, like, hey, this is really important, we have to have this, or was it kind of like you did your own research and just kind of honored those things?
No, his family was very, very helpful when it came to just the trips to Nigeria to get stuff for us. We
Wow.
had like the drums, I forgot what they're called. Like literally people were shaking drums when people were coming down the aisle. We
Oh,
had
wow.
headdress, which was like, I'm sure you'll see pictures of that, with the Nigerian coral beads that was straight. All of this stuff was like straight from the marketplace in Nigeria. And family members would come with bags and bags of cloths of just everything you could think of. And they were just so gracious enough to help us with that. And as far as like the traditions, yeah, I sat down with his family because he's a guy, right? So even though he's still a guy and he knew like nothing. So
That's unanimous across every culture, I'm pretty sure. No offense, gentlemen.
oh so even though he attended a lot of Nigerian weddings, he didn't necessarily know what everything meant and what was important. So that's what I did. I sat down with his cousins, with his aunties, and wrote down all the things that happened. And then after having that list, I sat down with him and then heard from him like what is something that you absolutely need and what are some things that we could probably be flexible on after getting that list. And that's my advice for other couples that are just trying to figure out how to integrate the culture while being at a destination wedding. Do what you can. You're going to have to make modifications, but you try to do as much research as you can, talk to as many people as you can, and then you kind of decide as a couple what needs to happen and what can be tweaked a little bit.
Well, it was probably a good opportunity too for you to just really bond with his family on a level that maybe you hadn't before. I mean, what an opportunity there. That's really cool. So I know we talked about this before the show and when we were emailing back and forth. You and I are both huge fans of the movie Coming to America. And this was a part of what inspired your event. So tell me kind of what elements did you bring to the different events from the movie? Did you use elements in all three? Because you also did, which we haven't talked about yet, was the welcome, like Mexican kind of welcome reception that you had on the beach on night one. So did you use like elements from the movie for all three, or was it just for two? Or like, tell me about that.
It was mostly for the two. The all white Mexican dinner was just like very authentically Mexican. Like we had like a lot of different like streamers. We had the piñata. We had like it was very Mexican. Tacos, mole, all that stuff.
Yum, 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 yum. You're making my mouth water.
It was amazing. We had like a roasted pig. It was amazing. Like roasted pig. It was awesome. No, so the two events that we incorporated the Coming to America stuff was the white wedding and also the Nigerian wedding. And just the aspect of like being unapologetically yourself in a new country, I love. And just the royalty aspect. So first of all, I am a huge Cheetah Girl, Cheetah Sister fan. So I always love the print of Cheetah. If I can wear it, everything that I own, I can. We had Cheetah print kind of interwoven into our decor when it came to just like our menu cards, when it came to the thank you cards that we gave in the actual gift boxes. So we had just like this kind of wild, royal, everything was gold. We had gold silverware, gold chargers, gold big OD letters for our white wedding. So it was just very over the top. And I think Coming to America, everybody knows that movie, right? So when you say Coming to America, it's like, oh, okay. So I think us using that movie was something that it was strategic in the fact that people were like, okay, this is kind of what they're going for. They're going for out of the box. They're going for different. They're not necessarily going for the modern, regular style. And yeah, we had a lot of greenery, a lot of palm trees, a lot of colors interwoven into everything. So yeah, it was beautiful. My favorite part was the cheetah print though. So
I love that. That's wonderful. We're just gonna call you Cheetah for the rest of the show. That should be your little sideshow name, right?
yeah, literally on everything I own. Like I have something Yeah.
That is awesome. I love it. Okay, so let's talk for a second about the planning. So did you hire a wedding planner? Like, how'd you find the venue? How'd you work with wedding vendors from afar? Did you do scouting trips? Like, tell us all the things.
Okay, so yes, we did hire a wedding planner. She's actually Jamaican, and she was used by my family
Okay.
for previous weddings in Jamaica. And she
Okay.
was wonderful, but it was also her first wedding in Mexico.
Okay.
So I relied a lot on the on-site planner at Moon Palace the Grand, and she was wonderful. I heard a lot of like threats about how they don't necessarily, people at the resort don't necessarily answer you or pay attention to you until 3 months before your wedding. But she wasn't like that at all. She was very, very responsive. She was able to just kind of sit down and listen through the whole Nigerian spiel and what we needed. She was very cool. And she worked hand in hand with my Jamaican wedding planner, and they both kind of did work off of each other. So yeah, I got a wedding planner, and I'm the type of bride too that like I need to have all people on my side because of the fact that it was 3 different events. You know, it wasn't in the country. So my first thought was like, okay, let me just get help. You know, let me splurge. Let me just
So smart.
Yeah, I know that there's no way that I could have, like, looking back, it's like, thank God for them. They were great.
Well, it's almost like you're planning you're kind of planning 3 different weddings with 180 guests. I mean, that's just that alone. Just the number of people you had, most couples would be like, we need help, and then for you to do it in a very far away destination. And I think did you say a lot of your guest list traveled for this? I mean, obviously everyone had to travel to Cancun, but like traveling from other countries and things of that nature. Or did everyone kind of come from New York?
Most of them came from the US.
Okay.
We had a couple that came from Nigeria. They flew to the US and then to Cancun.
Wow.
But a majority of the people were from Atlanta, from New York,
Got
we
it.
had Florida. So they were all in the US, but yeah, majority of people traveled. And it was a really big deal, especially for me and my family. Like, there hasn't been a real wedding in my family. Like, I was next in line. So there has been a real wedding in like 30 years, I want to say, on my side. So it was a lot at stake.
Because lots of pressure there. Yeah.
A huge.
Now, were you really stressed out the whole time, or did having like you said, having those people in place that could help you, did that kind of just take that pressure off of you, or was it, did you still like wake up in the middle of the night, go, oh my gosh, what are we going to do about blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, I was stressed throughout, honestly. I feel like the most comfortable I was maybe like 2 weeks before the wedding, when I was like, okay, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I can't stress about it now, but I wouldn't sleep. I'd be up because that's just like the person I am. Like, regardless of how hard they worked, I just wanted everything to be perfect. I'm very type A. There was a lot at stake. So yeah, I was very stressed. And I think my husband too, he wasn't much help. So me kind of like stressing out and communicating with them. So yeah, it was stressful for me, honestly.
Yeah. I could see why. I mean, it's a lot. Did you do a scouting trip? Like, how did you find your venue, or was it something that because I know you hired a travel specialist, which we'll talk about. But how did you find the venue?
So the reason we found the venue was I did research even before I was engaged. I did research because, like I said, I'm always having a destination wedding, right? So I'm the type to listen to all of the podcasts and try to figure things out. And I remember I was listening to Omi Allen on her podcast. She had somebody named Jack come on. I forgot his last name. I don't want to screw it up. And he was talking about how Moon Palace, the Grand, was very famous for food. It's a very foodie friendly resort, and Jamaicans and Nigerians, food. Like, we don't play. So I was like when I heard foodie resort, I was like, okay, it was in my ear from then. And then my mother-in-law, when she went to Mexico, she actually stayed at Planet Hollywood, and then visited the Grand for a day because they had some kind of promotion going on. And after she went there, she fell in love. She became a Palace Elite member. So from her raving about it, from the things that I heard online, from the videos that I watched, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go with this because of the restaurant options, because it was just so big and people could have their privacy and also hang out with us when they wanted to. That was the reason why we kind of chose that resort. And because my mother-in-law had the Palace Elite membership, we could save our guests some money. So
oh, that's nice. That's really nice.
Yeah, kind of. Not really.
Is there a little caveat there we need to discuss?
Yeah, no, because like I think it depends on what tier you are in the actual timeshare, because her being a Palace Elite member, it came with a lot of red tape, honestly, that we didn't really know about before. That if I were to do things over, I probably wouldn't have actually used the Elite membership. I probably would have done just regular bride booking.
Okay.
If I could change that, because
Yeah.
there was just a lot of red tape that we went through unnecessarily by saving our guests a little bit of money that they didn't even know that they were saving anyway. So anyway, that's the thing. But yes, we did site visit. We went and stayed at Beach Palace, which is like the sister resort to the Grand. It was like 20 minutes away. And we went to the Grand for one day. So we went there and we saw all of the sites and took videos of everything. And I'm so, so glad I did that, because we ended up being kicked out of one of the venues that we originally wanted, which was yeah, it was pretty tragic. Yeah,
they kicked. What do you mean they kicked you out? You're get out of here. What? Oh, I would have been mad.
I was stressed because it was a lot. So essentially what happened was they decided that they wanted to build a restaurant in the space that we had set up for the Nigerian wedding, which was a beautiful like terrace with a roof and like columns, and it was like high up. It was wonderful. And they decided, yeah, we're gonna build a restaurant here. So whatever weddings that you got going on here, they signed a contract that basically said subject to availability. So yes.
Wow. That's a kick in the face right there. Because you're probably in your own mind, like after you'd seen it, you're like fantasizing about like the light hitting you, and you're like walking out, like what your guests are going to see and what you're going to see. And then like whammo, they're like, no, sorry, we're building a restaurant. Like, that's crazy. Oh, I would have been so mad.
Yeah. And so because when we went there, I recorded something in me told me to just record all the wedding spaces that they were showing us. So I'm so glad I did that, because once they told me, listen, we can't use this venue anymore, I was like, okay, so what other venue do you have available? And they were able to tell me. And I went back through my footage and I was like, okay, so this is the space. And I felt comfortable because I was like, okay, we can work with this. Thank God. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm glad I went in person, because just me being able to kind of see with my own eyes everything, it gave me some kind of peace. But I can understand, like, if somebody were to save some coins and had a really responsive wedding planner like I did, that could maybe FaceTime them in the space if they needed that, then yeah, go for it. But I'm glad I went for even one day. And I saved my money by not staying at that, because that resort was way more expensive than the resort that we stayed at. So we just made it a day. We stayed there all day. We saw all the spaces. So that was enough for us.
Yeah, good. So now, how'd you pick your vendors? Was that something that your wedding planner helped you with? What did you get, like a preferred vendor list from the resort? Like, how'd you pick like your photographer and all of that?
Oh, girl, we used all of the vendors at the resort, because
okay.
in Palace, there is a vendor fee. So if you do not use their vendors, they charge you $1,000 to utilize anybody outside of that list.
Interesting. And does that include the wedding planner or just like decor, lighting, photography?
I think maybe we got away with the wedding planner, but no, it's everything. It's supposed to be.
So is it $1,000 per vendor or $1,000 per vendor?
Per vendor.
Okay, I've never heard of such a thing.
Per vendor per day. Yeah.
And that's a lot for you because you were doing 3 days. Yeah.
Right. So we were,
Ouch.
yeah, we were just like, we'll take whatever you have. The only thing that we were prepared to pay the vendor fee for was our makeup artist, Ivan Crispin. He was amazing. And I did a trial at the resort when I was there for that one day, and it was not great. So
Okay.
I'm going to need to figure out how I'm going to get a makeup artist on here. And they were gracious in the fact that we only had to pay for a pass for him that day, which
Oh,
was,
that's good. And it does make sense, especially if it's an all-inclusive.
yes.
So I get when it's an all-inclusive to have all these extra bodies and people, they've obviously got like a per diem or some sort of fee because if people are going to be eating on property and things of that nature, and it's an all-inclusive, like that could get out of hand real fast. So I get it, but $1,000 is steep.
Very steep, which
interesting.
It works. Whatever strategy they have going on, it works.
It's working. It's working. Could you walk us kind of through your wedding weekend? Like, did you get there early? Like, what prep did you need to do ahead of time just to kind of get things going? Or did you just were you hit the ground running and get there and the same time as everyone else? How'd you do that?
No, we got there early.
Smart. Yeah.
Like 3 days early, and it was a part of the contract. You had to come 3 business days before the ceremony. And we got there. We had to taste some of the cultural dishes that we wanted them to make because they were Nigerian and Jamaican dishes, and we wanted to make sure that they were on point. So we got there. They were very close.
Okay. Hey, you know what? I'd take that. That's pretty good.
Escovitch fish was chef's kiss, amazing. The jollof rice was spicy, but it wasn't fully there. But jollof rice is one of those things that is kind of hard to make. So we gave them, they did the best that they could, and we were appreciative. Yeah. So yeah, we did come 3 days early, and it gave us a chance also to just kind of chill together before all the madness started. And we also thought that we would be assembling our gift bags for the guests, but our wedding planners took care of it, thank God. So we didn't have to worry about that. Nice. Yeah, but we were worried about that. Definitely. And yeah, we just chilled, ordered room service. It was a nice time. Definitely.
Good. So of all 3 of the events, what were your favorite aspects of each event?
I just loved. So when you have a destination wedding, one of the most magical things is when you see all of these people that are here that took the time out to get their passports in order, took the time out to just book their flight and spent the money, and they come all the way to this location and they're all there to support you and to love on you. And that aspect throughout every event, just seeing people that I knew in this space was amazing. And that's a feeling like I don't think I'll ever have again. It's one of those things it's just like, wow, this is amazing. This is all for me,
Yeah.
And that's what kind of just carried me through. I had no sleep. I felt like I was just so excited and happy and full of just high off life the whole time. As far as the favorite event, I probably would say at the end of the white wedding. So the way how we set it up was that we'd have a full-on reception for the Nigerian wedding, and then a ceremony for the white wedding and a shorter reception for that one, because we didn't want to eat up all of everybody's vacation, because a lot of them were just there for the weekend. So I was like, you know what, I don't want to drag it. They already did a whole day with us, because the Nigerian wedding was literally from 1:30 to 10 p.m. It was the whole day.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot. Yeah.
It was the whole thing. So I was like, you know what, let me give them Sunday to just enjoy their vacation. But what ended up happening for the white wedding was everybody was just having such a good time and they didn't want to leave. So that was my favorite part, when the DJ was like, you know what, we're just going to pay for the extra hour. We're going to have a good time. Everybody's going to dance. And then when people are ready to leave, they can leave.
And then they never left.
They never did. It was great. But do you want me to walk you through the whole thing again?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Okay. So day 1, we arrived in Cancun with our matching sweatshirts.
You were those people? I love it. That's great.
OD, we had a whole logo that I designed. It was called OD in Love. And I don't know in New York, OD is slang for like really, really like in love. So we had OD in love on our sweatshirts. We had like Mr. and Mrs., which looking back on it now probably wasn't a good idea because they targeted us through customs
Oh,
look stuff. But
oh, they did. Oh boy, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
it's one of those things like, maybe not during the airport situation, but after, yeah. So we arrived in Cancun. We got through customs, though. Everything was fine. And then we arrived at the resort. We got drinks on site, margaritas, and then we went straight to our testing. Honestly, we didn't even go to our room. They took our bags up to the room, and we went straight to the testing where we tried escabeche fish, which is a Jamaican dish, and then we tried the jollof rice, which is a Nigerian dish. Which was a fun time.
Yeah, the tasting's like the best part. I mean, I love any reason to eat, but it's like right when you land, you're like, here's margaritas, here's all your tasting. Like, yes, 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 yes.
It was great. I was able to meet my wedding planner in person for the first time. The one in Mexico, because before when we visited, we had somebody else because they transition you through the process. You don't have the same person throughout. But I felt like I was with her for a very long time. But when I did come, she wasn't necessarily my wedding planner just yet. So I met her and she was really nice. We had the tasting and then we definitely went to sleep.
You're like, we're gonna need to just go to bed because you know what's coming at you. Like, you know, you're gonna need your energy. It's almost like your bodies were like, okay, we need to just shut down so that we can like gear back up again.
Yeah, no, yeah, we definitely went to sleep. I was trying to think if we did anything. We absolutely, after the tasting,
This is a family show, Danielle. So maybe keep
oh,
the
yeah,
I'm kidding, I'm joking.
correct. Like, right, there we go. Let's just say that. And we went to sleep. So, and then after we woke up was the next day, we went to the adult beach club. And this day was when our guests started to arrive. Like my parents, his brother. So few guests arrived. And um, these were the guests that were actually helping us carry things for our gift bags as well. So that's another tip. Like if you are bringing gift bags for a Nigerian wedding or whatever wedding that has a lot of
Yeah.
favors, call in your family members to help you do that because
Heck
it
yes.
stuff.
And I feel like a lot of family members, or at least like in my experience, I had friends at least, maybe not family members so much outside of like my mom, but I had friends that were like, well, what can I do? What can I do to help? You know,
Yeah.
they were like really eager, even if they weren't like part of the wedding party, they
Yeah.
were just really wanting to like just be part of it because it's fun and it's exciting and it's like, you know, so it's like give them a job to do. People love that, you know?
For everyone, I was literally like, when they said, "Oh, let me know any way you can help," I was like, "Save me space in your bag." That's what you can do for me. And
Well, and that's smart too, because shipping can get not only really expensive, it is, I can't tell you how many times I have shipped things to other countries and tracking, no tracking. It is tough to make sure things actually get to where they're supposed to go. So bringing it with you in your luggage, like
yeah,
that actually is going to cost you less, even if you have to pay for an oversized bag. That's going to cost you less than trying to track down stuff and ship it and then like fingers crossed. You know what I mean? Danielle, that's one of our top tips is just bring it with you because it's then you know that you've got it, or at least the airline will owe you money for it if they lose it, right?
yes, correct. So our family members started coming in that day. We rented like a little cabana for anybody that was coming in that wanted to chill with us. Nobody came, but it was just the two of us just chilling. Then we had a rundown meeting, which is when my Jamaican wedding planner came that day. And we all sat around this huge table with like the productions team, with wedding planners, with the photographers, with everybody from the resort that was going to be operating all three events. And this was the Thursday, right? Yeah. This was the Thursday before the welcome dinner that happened on Friday. So we sat down with them. We discussed everything, every little detail that happened every single day. And we left there feeling a lot more confident after having spoken to everybody and kind of sharing the vision and everything like that.
Were there any surprises during that meeting? Were there any things that you're like, whoa, wait a minute, like we talked about this was supposed to happen? Or was it everything that you had discussed and worked towards, like, was like checked off, the box was checked off?
No, there was no surprises. It was just more detailed than I thought it would be. Like, that's when they started discussing, like, okay, what position do you want the sparklers to be in? And like things that I didn't really think about that I was like, oh, we definitely need to talk about that. So during that meeting was very technical. And that was kind of surprising to me too, because it wasn't technical up until this moment, you know? Mm-hmm. So I kind of wish, if I were to say something, I kind of wish that we were technical earlier, not a day before everything started, because in that moment, I really didn't like think about those things until then. So yeah, but no surprises really.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So we had the meeting with everyone, and then I met some guests that were checking in, and then I again went to sleep again. But honestly, like, that's the thing, like I was so drained with just like everything, you know, and it was those were the only 2 times that I felt like I got sleep.
Yeah.
2 first days, like I slept, you know? And then, so yeah, that was the end of that first day. I think my husband kind of hung out with some of his family that was there, but I knocked. The next day was when the magic started. So that was on Friday. That's when everybody was coming in, because we told people you can come earlier, but you cannot come later than Friday. So all of the guests were coming in that day. And we actually had difficulties with the transportation from the airport to the resort, which was insane. And it was a part of the red tape that I was talking about when it came to the actual membership. But they had difficulties. They were basically telling our guests, like, hey, your name isn't on the list. Like, and it was like, right. It was like, what do you mean? This list was handed in way before everything has been situated. So that was annoying on that day. But, you know, I had a really good support system. And one of the things that my wedding planner voiced in our meeting, our Zoom meeting during that week, even when we were still in New York, she was like, keep the bride and the groom in a bubble while this is all. If there's anything that you can do to like, just like not let them know what you're doing, just do it. Don't let them know that something bad is happening. Like,
problem solve, right? Yep.
So we were in the bubble. Starting Friday, we were in the bubble. So even though this was happening, I had amazing bridesmaids. I had his mom that was kind of taking care of it, because up until that point, I was like, okay, anything that happens from here on out, I can't be a part of it because I have to be experiencing this. Yeah. So handled the transportation. People were very forgiving. You know, when they arrived, I was like, I'm so sorry. They're like,
well, and that happens. I mean, that could happen. That can happen with your Uber. Like that could, you know what I mean? Like, I think the thing that people who are going to do a destination wedding have to think through is the fact that when you travel, anything can happen. You can have weather delays. Your flight can get canceled. And that's why it's so important to travel and get there early before everything starts, so that you're not stressing out and any of those unforeseen things. Like whenever we do like a photo shoot or anything, we always fly the entire team in like a day or two early, just so we can, if just in case something happens where there's bad weather or there's, you know, something with the ground transportation, that we're not like waiting on a component of something and it throws everything off. So, you know, that is, it's good that people were understanding and forgiving, because sometimes they're not. Sometimes people are like, you're never gonna believe like this happened to me. It's like, yeah, it's part of traveling. You know what I mean? Like, not to like make it seem like it's not annoying. It's annoying, but it's also part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were very understanding. And it was one of those things that, you know, people told me that things were going to go wrong, and it's something that we had to roll with. It was, I was apologetic and they were understanding. So we just moved forward. So yeah, that was our difficulty on the Friday. We had a run through with everybody for the Nigerian wedding that was taking place the next day. And that was our only our only in-person run through for that wedding.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of like things that you've got to make sure go just so. So, I mean, it makes sense that that's the one that you would do the rehearsal for, you know?
It was very, very, and there's people that also flight were delayed and stuff like that. So not everybody was there, but the people that were there were in charge of informing the people that weren't.
So that's
So
good.
we had the run through that night, and then literally I had an hour to get dressed and do my own makeup because my makeup artist flight was delayed. So I did my own, and that was supposed to be one of, I had two different makeup artists. So I had one for the white wedding, and then because I couldn't afford to have him for both because of the vendor fee, just in case, I had another one do my wedding for the white wedding. So I was supposed to have my trial with her that day, and her flight was delayed. So I did my own makeup.
Well, you're clearly good at it. So I'm sure you looked beautiful. And actually, based on your wedding photos, you were like stunning, total goddess, 100%.
So I did my own makeup, and then we had the welcome dinner an hour later. So I showed up. It was an all white welcome dinner. Everybody was wearing white except for me and my husband. We wore like
what color?
Red. So I had like white, it was a white dress, but it was like big bright red flowers all over it. So it gave like Mexican vibes, but it also gave Nigerian vibes because it was like Nigerian fabric. So when I saw it, I was like, that's the dress. So I bought that dress, and then my husband just wore like a really nice red polo and black slacks. He's easy.
Nice.
So we came to the welcome dinner, and it was just a good time for everybody to just meet each other and hang out with each other. And I don't regret doing that at all. We had like a nice little getting to know you bingo game, which was fun. We had food, which was essential. And we had a DJ. My DJ played that night as well. So even from like the first night, we were already dancing. We already knew what the vibes were going to be for the rest of the
year. That's awesome. So would you say, after experiencing all of this, would you say you'd do a destination wedding again?
Yeah, a million times over.
Yeah.
I would have.
Good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Would you keep everything the same? And if not, like, what would you change?
I would again change the fact that we booked through my mother-in-law's membership. Mm-hmm. I would definitely change that so that we can actually hire a travel professional.
Yeah, travel agents are so helpful, but I also understand why you did what you did, because there's like that, they're dangling the carrot of the discount. So you're thinking, because the entire time we've talked, one of the things that kind of stands out about you is the fact that your guest experience was so important. Like everything that you're like, this was like frustrating. It was about the travel and the ground transportation for your guests, because you're like worrying about their experience. You're worrying about, their comfort, their, all of those things. Would you, because I know you did it on, you said a holiday weekend, right? Would you still do it on a holiday weekend?
No, I would change that too.
It seems like such a great idea at the beginning, because you're like, people have time off work. They've already got that extra day. So if you're doing a 3-day event, it makes so much sense. But then you've got the surge pricing, and you don't really think about that until you're in it. And then you're like, oh, okay, like this is going to cost more. It's going to be harder to find flights that aren't booked, or like already, booked up. And yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, and I was also going off of my schedule too, because right now I work for the Board of Education, and those are the days that I had off. So I was trying to figure out how I can kind of finagle a whole week off.
Yeah.
Holiday, and a lot of my guests had that holiday too. So
well, and sometimes a holiday does make sense, and sometimes it's just like, it's the deal. Oh well, and because people travel over holidays, and that's the reason it's expensive. So I don't know that it's like never do a holiday weekend for your wedding, but I do think if there are other times that make sense, also choose those dates. But yeah, it is what it is.
I definitely change it. If I could change something, I'd change the holiday weekend. Yeah.
So we haven't gotten to your honeymoon yet. Tell me about that.
Oh, so we actually, fun fact, we actually got married in New York in February. And our wedding,
Oh, okay. So this was like your delayed celebration then was the events in November. Okay.
our wedding was on 2/2/2/2/2.
Oh my
And
God, that's so cute. That's so romantic. I love it. That's adorable.
yes, thank you. So we were married in February and we had our honeymoon then. We went to St. Martin for about 5 days and had our
Oh,
first
nice.
honeymoon there. And then we didn't really have a wedding honeymoon in November, but we had a Jamaica trip last month. So it worked
Ooh, nice. Did you go on your anniversary to Jamaica?
on two.
Nice. That's so cute. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what is your biggest piece of advice for other couples who are planning a destination wedding and also mixing traditions and cultures? I mean, because I feel like that's another element that is interesting and worth talking about.
Yeah. My biggest advice would be flexible. And I think that when it came down to the two cultures mixing with each other, like modifications is definitely a thing. Even when you have a Nigerian Jamaican wedding in New York, you have to
Yeah,
modify things because you're not
totally.
the actual country that usually takes place, right? So modifications are going to happen. You're going to have those open communications with parents, with relatives that are expecting certain things. And then at the end of the day, you sit down with your partner and you discuss like what is needed, what is important to me, and then you're flexible. You have to be flexible. And I'd say that definitely just do your research. There's people that it doesn't seem like it because I feel like just now there's a lot of things coming out about destination weddings, but there's enough stuff out there if you dig about the places that you want to have in mind and things like that. So I say do your research. I'd say be flexible and just be open to just learning about your partner's culture and just understanding them in that way because it like you said it definitely made me closer to his family and they see you trying to incorporate their culture and they appreciate that, so
Yeah.
it was very cool. And
I feel like you just gave marriage advice. I mean, if you think it, no, but like I've been married 17 years, and what you just said about the flexibility and the listening to one another and the finding common ground, finding areas where you're, compromising, like that's literally marriage. So you've already created this foundation for the rest of your lives just by what you did with your wedding. Like, do you realize that? That's kind of cool.
no, I didn't, but thanks.
And her moonlight career is going to be a marriage counselor. She doesn't even know it yet.
We'll see.
Okay, so what's the one thing you wish you'd known before you started planning? Like what's that one piece of advice for other couples?
So I feel like when people say that they're having a destination wedding, it's automatic that that not everybody's going to make it, right? It's just
Yeah.
a thing. But I wish I knew that the people that I absolutely thought were coming had the potential of not coming. And I say that because when in conversation with them, they would say, like, yeah, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I'm going to be there. And I believe them. And for whatever reason, it really affected me while I was planning because I was very guest centered in all the events that I was planning, right? I wanted to make sure that all the details were together and I's and Q's were crossed. And when I heard that certain people couldn't come, it was more shaky for me than I thought it would be. And I think that, it actually it was a blessing in disguise because it actually gave room for other people to kind of step up and help me, and I've been the type to just, I don't necessarily ask for help, but it definitely humbled me and made me ask for help and give people that room to kind of be there for me when I needed their help the most. So I think that I wish I knew that those people weren't necessarily going to be able to make it, because I wouldn't have had the ideal in my head that they
Mm-hmm.
were there, and I wouldn't have been so heartbroken that they couldn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and like, I knew that people weren't going to make it. There's people that definitely won't come, but there's certain people that you picture them being there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that's great advice. I think just, establishing, maybe taking that expectation of those certain people that you envision and just making it a blank slate and just being like, the people that are going to be there are the ones that are meant to be there. And the ones that aren't, it's not that they don't love you. It's not that they aren't, an important part of your life, but that's just maybe not their role for you at that moment. I think that's a good piece of advice, because destination weddings do eliminate certain people. I mean, it could be health reasons that they can't go. It could be financial. And I think sometimes too, when it comes to financial reasons, a lot of people are very proud around money, and they may never admit that that's why they can't come. Or it could be, it could be any reason in the world. Maybe they have a fear of flying and they're embarrassed to admit that. I mean, there could be any reason, but I think that's really great advice. So one last thing, let's talk quickly about your YouTube channel. And I know you want to share a little bit about that. I think I've watched a few episodes. Everybody who is doing a destination wedding, it doesn't matter if you are like halfway through your planning, or you're about to walk down the aisle, or you just got started, or you're, marrying cultures, or your partner, or whatever. She's got really great information to share, do's and don'ts, things that she experienced that dive even deeper than we were able to today. So tell us a little bit about that, and share your Instagram handle and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Jennifer stated, after planning this monstrous wedding, I decided that, I want to help other people do the same thing. And I loved, except for the fact that it was my actual wedding, I feel like I would enjoy planning other ones.
How a
And
lot of wedding planners get their start is planning in their own weddings. I'll tell you that much.
that out. Yeah. So, and it was a lot of energy to just like put away after the wedding. So it's like, okay, no, I'm gonna do this. So I started my own YouTube channel. It's called It Takes Two TV. And I basically go on there and I documented my wedding process from kind of the beginning. And then now, after the fact, I'm kind of going through everything, all the parts. And yeah, it's a great time to make those videos because I'm really passionate about it. And then also helping other people that are in my shoes. Like, I feel like it's very easy to plan. Well, not easy, but it's definitely not as hard to plan a Nigerian wedding in the US than it is to plan in Mexico or anywhere else that you choose that's not Nigeria, right? And just having that many people as well. Like, if you have a big family and you're planning this destination wedding, I have tips. I have a lot of different tips to share on my YouTube channel. Also on my Instagram, I share tips there as well. So it's It Takes Two TV. And it's from our hashtag. One of our hashtags was It Takes Two Ayanru. So, and it has like the introduction, like, it takes two to make a thing go all right.
Oh yeah. I mean, come on. That's like one of the best songs ever made.
Exactly. So yeah, It Takes Two TV. It's on YouTube. It's on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. I'm trying to learn more about TikTok as well. So yeah, add me, follow me, direct message me on any of those mediums, and I'll get back to you. I will get back to you because I just love this whole thing. I love this interview. Thank you for having me. Like, it was
Of
great.
course.
Awesome.
This is wonderful. It's been honestly such a pleasure to have you on. You're like, when you emailed me, I was like, this is exactly the kind of thing we're wanting to talk about. Just all of the things, bringing such a large group down to Mexico, and what you experienced in your planning, the things that maybe went a little sideways, the things that didn't. Like, I feel like it's just such an interesting conversation to have, because usually we're talking to experts and people that are planning and doing, the vendors, but I think it's always important to check in with our readers and, like, engage with you guys as well, because you're the ones actually doing it, right? So thank you so much for coming on the show. And if you guys want to follow, subscribe. You can go to our website, which is brand new, by the way, destinationIdo.com. You can also follow us at Destination I Do on all of the different social media handles. It's basically the same. And yeah, all of her information will be in the show notes. So follow us and hopefully we'll catch you next time. Thanks again, Danielle.
Thank you. Bye, guys.